Good morning everyone, I am Nicholas Goh and my presentation today is titled Beyond Digital Optimize, the double-edged effect of digital capability on business performance in Malaysia's manufacturing SMEs. In policy and business practice, digitalization is often presented as something automatically beneficial. However, I argue that digital capability does not always improve business performance in a straightforward way. In other firms, it may create rigidity, dependence on routines, and slower adaptation. Therefore, this proposal examines both sides of the story by testing organizational agility and organizational inertia as parallel mediators in Malaysian manufacturing SMEs. This topic matters because SMEs are not a marginal part of the Malaysian economy. My proposal challenges that assumptions. I argue that why matters is not digitalization by itself, but whether digital systems are converted into meaningful organizational capability. So, this study does not ask whether digitalization is important. Instead, it asks why some digitally enabled SMEs perform the battle while others become more constrained despite investing in digital tools. First, many studies do not clearly separate digital adoption from digital capability. Having software, dashboard, or digital tools does not necessarily mean that a firm has the capability to use them effectively in coordination and decision making. Second, the literature often shows a strong pro-innovation biases. Third, this creates a practical problem for SMEs. However, three gaps remain. First, many studies still do not clearly separate adoption from capability in their measurement design. Second, most models assume only positive organizational pathways. They focus on agility but do not seriously model the possibility that digital systems may also strengthen inertia. Third, Malaysians manufacturing SMEs remain under-examined in the more balanced framework. So this proposal addresses that gap through a dual path model. Based on the gap, I developed 4 research questions. In short, I want to test the direct relationship, the dual mediating mechanism, and the 2 key boundary conditions. This keeps the study logically, focuses on closely aligned with a written proposal. Digital capability is defined here as the firm's ability to use integrated digital system, data, and routines to improve information processing, coordination, and decision quality. Organizational agility refers to the ability to sense, decide, and respond quickly to meaningful change. By contrast, organizational inertia refers to the tendency to preserve rigid routines, structures, or procedural dependencies even when change is required. Alright, the theoretical lens. First is the resource-based view, which explains performance differences through the valuable and difficult to imitate resources. Second is the dynamic capability view, which is especially important here because it explains how firms sense, size, and reconfigures under the changing conditions. The third is contingency logic, which helps explain why the same capability does not create the same value in every context. So, together, these theories support a more balanced argument. Digital capability may be valuable, but its performance consequences depends on how it is translated inside the firms and on the conditions surrounding of the firm. Alright, so this slide presents the conceptual framework. First is the enabling road. Digital capability can strengthen the organizational agility, which shall improve the performance. The second is the constraining route. Digital capability may also strengthen organizational inertia, which may reduce performance. Then, I add two boundary conditions. Environmental dynamism is positioned as an output side moderator because ability tends to matter more when the changes is fast and unpredictable. Then, resource slack is positioned as an input side moderator because firm needs some room to mobilize the capability effectively. The next group tests that the dual pathway digital capability is expected to positively influence agility, and it may also positively influence inertia. Then, agility is expected to improve performance while inertia is expected to weaken the performance. Environmental dynamism is expected to strengthen the agility to performance link, while resource lag is expected to shape whether digital capability is translated into agility or inertia. I propose a time lag to wave design. In wave 1, I will measure digital capability, agility, inertia, environmental dynamism, resource length, and control variables. In wave 2, after a short time, I will collect the business's performance measures. The reason for this design is to reduce common method bias and strengthen causal logic compared with a single cross-sectional survey. The population consists of Malaysian manufacturing SMEs based on the DOSM economic consensus profile. For sampling, I propose stratified proportive sampling, supported by mixed mode administration, meaning both online and offline collections were feasible. This is important because a purely online approach would likely overrepresent digitally visible firms and create visible bias. For question A development, the item will be adapted from established skills in prior studies and then redefined for a Malaysian manufacturing SMEs context. The instrument will go through expert review, translations, and back translations, and a pilot test around 20 to 30 respondents before full administrations, instead of asking managers directly whether they have access resources, which may produce socially desirable answers. I will use behaviorally accurate items. So first, I will use SPSS for preliminary screening, including missing data check, descriptive strategic, outliers detection, and non-response bias assessment. Second, I will evaluate the measurements models using SMART PRS form. These include indicators reliability, internal consistency, convergence variability, and discriminate validity. Third, I will test the structural model using the bootstrap path coefficients, indirect effects, moderation effect, effect size, predictive relevance, and robustness check. Moderate agility and inertia in parallel. It offers a more balanced explanation of digital value creation. Second, managerially, it helps SMEs readers distinguish between meaningful capability buildings and superficial digital activities. So third, from a policy perspective, it suggests that adoptions counts alone are an incomplete source metrics. Policymakers shall focus not only on whether SMEs adopt digital tools, but also on whether firms have the routines, feasibility, and readiness needed to turn those tools into value. Digital capability does not create value automatically. Its impact depends on whether digitally enabled routines are translated into organizational agility or become embedded as organizational inertia, and whether the firm has to select an environmental condition that makes that capability matter. And what makes this proposal different is that it does not simply ask whether SMEs shall digitalize. It asks why seemingly similar digital effort produce the different organizational outcome. So that's all from me, and thank you so much for your attention.